Audio. Okay. Hello, anybody who was already here. Let me get everything set up first. See if I have to dismiss the thing that shows up at the top. Nope, never mind. That doesn't show up anymore, I guess. Okay. So, while I wait for people to show up, today was an other day, every other day, because you have to put 1 day of space for muscle recovery in between specific types of exercises. Every other day is push-up day. And I've already done over 150 push-ups today. I don't know about any of you. And Sunday, I broke the previous record for number in 1 day, not in one go, in one set. That record was 63, and that was from back in 2013, way back when I was young, when I was only 20. I doubt I'm ever going to see that again, but I was able to do 63 in one go without stopping. But over the course of a single day, the across multiple sets, the new record set as of Sunday was 201. As of this most recent batch of 30 I just did before starting stream, today we're at 154. So see if I can go even just one above 201. See if we can do 202. All right. 2 minutes. This isn't even updating yet. Let's see. Do I have the one with the rail map? Yes, I do. Okay. So I'll be able to show everything here properly when the time comes. Trump's having another crash out. Supposedly, I would doubt it because even that would still take balls, but supposedly a number of Republican congressmen are, once the midterms are over and they don't have to worry about a potential backlash from his cult, uh, supposedly, once the midterms are over, a number of Republican congressional reps and senators actually intend to turn on him and supposedly, again, join everyone else in a 25th Amendment vote, which, I mean, would be really beneficial for not just the US, but for everyone on the face of the earth at this point. But I'm going to leave that at like maybe only a 5% chance that any of them will actually have the balls to do that. Get anybody else? One other. Oh, there we go. Okay, so uh, let's see. So to start with, before we, well, first we have to fix Epic Pen, of course, like always. Do this, then we do this, then we come back in, and then it magically works. So before we go to Crimea, Voronezh over here, just across the border, was the city with the other major missile guidance system electronics factory in Russia. And that factory was struck by Flamingo cruise missiles and took pretty heavy damage on the initial run. And is that the okay? This was the other one. This is not that one, but this is the other one at a different location that's pretty heavily gone. You can get like kind of a bit of L of some structure still standing over there, but it's burnt and caved in. The one in Voronezh, let's get to that one. Where are you, Voronezh? That is of it. That's not the good angle, though. But yeah, this is not the best angle, but this is wherever these people happen to be filming it from. So this was after it got struck. I think one of the videos up here was actually when it got struck. Okay, there we go. One, two, three, and then the person ran for cover, obviously. But that factory got hit decently, and it burned for a while, and then what was left pretty much caved in. So that one's off. This is not during the impact. This is after. Yeah, there you can see the whole thing's up and going. And this was not drones. Those were actual cruise missiles, aka things that you don't really have an excuse to not detect with radar and not have your air defense system shoot down. Here's some random price signs from around Russia as gasoline and other fuel costs start spiking up because of all the refinery shutdowns. It's gone from between $3 and $3.50 equivalent per gallon up to now between like 5 and 5.50. Anybody? Nope. All right. Looks like it's just going to be you two who are alive this time. All right. Meanwhile, uh, Crimea is getting the axe. That seems to be one of the locked in strategies at the moment. Let's give it a back end too. Give a nice little hook there. It's a battle axe. So the fuel storage depots across Crimea are gone. The last one was hit a few days ago. We spoke about that. Power grid was already a bit iffy because of the amount of substations and transformers that had been hit. But now, one of the major power plants was struck overnight and is out of commission to a pretty decent degree. And that one power plant does not provide power to an entire half of the peninsula, but because of the sudden drops and load discrepancies and frequency breakage that caused across the grid, resulted in roughly half of the peninsula now being without power. The three ferries showed that the other day, but I'll go to that again. The three ferries were hit and burning on water the other day. Uh, where? There we go. One, two, three. And then that big smoke plume is from the actual port terminal at Kerch that they go to. So the ferry option is off. The overland option is continuing to get choked as it is now constantly within range of GameCube controller controlled drone strikes. So those are up to a mix of fuel tanker trucks and regular supply trucks. Those are now up to an average of 30 per day getting hit along the roads. And also, there's the apart from the land route there's four little bridges. I don't remember where exactly they are, but there's four little bridges that go from the occupied mainland south onto the peninsula. And one of those, I think it was this one, but it might be the one over here. So don't exact quote me. I think it was this one. One of those has been hit to the point where even Russia decided it was structurally unsound. And so they've put up a improv pontoon bridge next to it, But now that's uh, the capability of that one's now coming into question as it's been taking hits, and some of these vehicles have gotten hit while on the pontoon bridge. You can see some of the holes and stuff in the regular one. And is this the rail one? Where's the rail one? Where's the rail thing? It's probably further up. Go all the way back up here. That's the map that relates to it. Oh, wait. Yeah, I forgot. This was a thumbnail. So, yeah, that was one of the rail bridges over the little canals on the peninsula that has been taken out by drone strikes. And they continued with follow-up ones hitting the repair equipment that got towed in to try to fix it, and also the actual the trains themselves, the actual locomotive engines that rolled the repair equipment in. And oh no, it's back up here. So here's a map of the rail networks in Crimea and the occupied southern region. So as you can see, there's no freight rail option over land because the railways up here, which was already well within drone striking distance, which is why a lot of stuff came back to Russia using the overland highway route that's a lot closer to the coast, that was previously out of drone range, but now it is in drone range. And so the X here is where that rail bridge was cut. So sending stuff from mainland Russia this way over rail over the Kerch Bridge is now not entirely an option anymore. They can bring stuff onto this part and then just kind of stop the train in place and side offload it onto some trucks and then carry those down to the main cities like Sevastopol. So the land route becomes increasingly untenable, uh, both by trucks constantly being hit along it at a rate of now 30 plus per day. The bridges in this part are also being hit, and trucks crossing the pontoon bridges set up beside them are now also being hit, which is sinking the pontoon bridges. This railway has been cut off. The ferries are out, which leaves the only real options being to continue playing high risk with the land route for bringing supplies to the peninsula and having only a portion of them get through, or starting to heavily use the carriage bridge again, which they haven't wanted to do because that would validate it as a target. And now that Ukraine has domestic cruise missiles of its own, it can lob whatever it wants at the bridge, but is waiting until they're forced to use it because then because then it transfers over into the territory of all blah. Hold on. Hold on, my vocal cords can function into the territory of all's fair game. And at the border with the occupied southern regions of Ukraine, for some reason, Russian officials still are having all the supply trucks and everything that are going over the land route to increasingly cut off Crimea, they're having them stop at the occupied border and just sit here in a big, nice, juicy looking queue instead of doing anything other than this. But you feel like doing it zero IQ, then I guess you feel like doing it zero IQ. And then I'll check you guys in a second, but we'll just mention that uh, apparently, at least Israel claims they are doing this. I'm not claiming that they are because I doubt they really would, but they are claiming that they're withdrawing from portions of southern Lebanon. They've outright stated that they will not entirely leave it, but supposedly, instead of up to this line, which is where they were, they've withdrawn to more like this line, sort of, as a quote unquote show of good faith or show of trust for the ongoing negotiation process, as Iran has made it pretty clear that they will not let go of Lebanon being part of the whole deal arrangement. So some neck twisting pressure was applied enough, apparently, on our end to get Benjamin over there to pull his guys back like 30% of the way. Uh, because doing that is difficult, and it was a lot easier to do in earlier times when factories and what was being done with them was like simpler, and also probably doubts on the part of those in charge of whether it would actually be done competently. They are whoever is doubting is actually intelligent and correct in doubting that it would be done with any degree of competence, and also lack of wanting to do that because it would, let me try to draw an exclamation point, because it would kind of convey not too great of a message to the public and would be kind of admitting that they've lost any and all control or ability to stop on domestic soil attacks. And also, this is where almost all of Russia's population is, like 90% of the population, like lives in the western chunk. So this is where most of the power plants are. So even if they could magically teleport factories out east and nothing went wrong with that, and they didn't care about the message that was received by the public by doing so, they would only be able to move a certain amount of stuff because there's not the same level of spare electricity capacity sitting out there that there is around the area, where like most of the population lives. Meanwhile, traffic is continuing through the Strait of Hormuz, higher than during war levels, but still, again, nowhere near the actual regular levels. This is not the number of tankers. Keep in mind, this is the number of total ships of all kind. The the number per day has been staying between usually 20 and 30, and occasionally jumps up to 40, but mostly seems to be staying around the 20 to 30 range. Whereas, again, pre-war, the normal was like 140 plus per day of all kinds, not that many oil tankers going per day, but it is up to between 20 and 30 vessels of all different kinds coming and going per day, uh, versus the pre-war 140 plus, but in a better state than the during war 0 to 7 vessels per day. So Iran is uh, Iran has declared that anybody can come and go, and the U.S. is no longer blockading Iran either. However, the shipping companies are still really reluctant on their of their own volition, of their own choice to return, because there's a big uncertainty cloud hanging over there of whether or not this will all start again. And also, some of the shipping companies are just outright refusing to go until their shipping insurance firms lower the elevated insurance premiums they're charging, which at the moment have or through at the moment are 5 to 6 times what they normally charge per vessel. And during the war, while things were on, the insurance companies uh, would insure they still actually would insure the ships for anyone who wanted to try. But during the war, while it was active from February 28th until April 16th or whatever, they were charging, they said they would insure ships, but they would do so while charging the shipping company 20 times the normal cost per ship. But some did pay that occasionally, as the number was not constantly 0 vessels per day. It was between 0 and 7 vessels per day during the war. But it's now down from over 20 times the asking price to insure a vessel going in that region. It's down from 20 to only around 5 or 6 times the normal cost. They're never going to bring it back down to the normal cost for anywhere else in the world, but they might bring it down to like only 2 times normal if it looks at any point like this is definitively over, which they are not yet convinced that it is. The insurance market, apparently, the ocean going insurance market at least, seems to be the only market that I guess still has a brain, because, the rest of the market, as we can see from how far oil has gone back down, despite no real physical change, the deficit has only decreased from 12 million barrels per day down to 10 million barrels per day, because only a couple oil tankers are coming and going per day, not the normal amount. That 20 to 30 ships per day is all kinds of ships, all the different types cumulatively together. But the market, as you can see, is treating this as if uh, everything has returned to normal, all production levels are normal, all storage levels are normal, and the oil is just going through some kind of magical teleporter from the Persian Gulf to its destinations. So the market, the big one that you probably think of when you think of the market, is absolutely gone in terms of having any form of intelligence or rational decision making to it anymore. Anybody else? uh, yes and no. I mean, you could, but that Uh, flexible, flexible seabed piping is something that, takes time to set up, and a pumping network, like in and of itself, is something that takes time to set up, and that would be visible way in advance of it being even started or finished. And so anything being brought in to try that would would itself just get struck and destroyed. So this is a fully taking the axe to the neck of the peninsula situation. Uh, there's no real viable way out. However, even if disregarding Putin himself, even if like the generals around him, the military brass or whatever, even if they do recognize that reality, regardless of the fact that he's telling them, obviously, to do not dare let go of it, they also kind of can't let go of it because that's one of the few things that would kind of start to turn into a internal cascade. Not necessarily quick and not as impactful as some people might think, at least not immediately, but it would be one of the, again, Crimea is like one of the three things, Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Crimea, that from Moscow's perspective are like the only three things or places that actually like matter enough. Everywhere else can be drained, everywhere else can have its budget deprived, and everywhere else can be left without air defense. And but Crimea is one of the three places that actually matters, and they were constantly giving Crimea additional air defense. However, most of that was also taken out, and now they can't really get any additionally to the peninsula because any air defense being moved along the overland route automatically becomes priority target number one, and they had resorted to moving it over via the ferries. However, the ferries are now out of the question, so the only thing left is the bridge. But Russia really doesn't want to start sending a bunch of military stuff over the bridge again because they know the instant the first one goes on there, the cruise missile wave is immediately coming for it. So gasoline sales to the public are banned. Like I said, the gas stations are have nothing in them. They're not selling anything. Individual people from mainland Russia are like bringing stuff over themselves. They're filling like the 5 gallon jerry cans at stations in mainland Russia. Draw the handle here, and they're like packing, 10 jerry cans in the trunk of their car and then driving that over to Crimea. And some of them are like giving them to relatives, and others are obviously setting up a black market because, of course, where instead of the like $5 per gallon that gasoline is spiking to across various regions of Russia, they're selling it on Crimea at like $15 a gallon. Let's see, yep, there we go. We are still just pumping, still just riding this bubble in the market. How is SpaceX doing? Let's see. Did they drop yet? They did. Not by as much as I would have liked to see, though. They got up to 220 at the highest. and now they're down to around 155, 156. So they lost a fair bit. Ooh, Tesla is finally going back down where it belongs as well. Down to 380. We were almost up at 500 a while ago. Nvidia, where are we standing? Good, good. Heading down 200. Oh, darn. No, it's technically higher than it was a couple of months ago. It was down to 180 and then it jumped up again. But it is on its way down again. Hopefully crash into oblivion, along with Palantir and all the other surveillance state wet dream companies. Okay. Nothing from anybody else yet. We're up to 9. If anybody showed up late, you can scroll back along the timeline. It's only 30 minutes so far, and that's probably the extent of what's going to be. Close that and go to what was I going to go to? Oh yeah. For anybody who's new, as always, uh, you go to the description under the stream or any video I've uploaded in the last 2 years or so. Under the PayPal and Patreon links, there is another link to this, the free access drive folder. This is a free resource drive that I maintain where anybody can get and use any kinds of these graphs. I maintain these for the sake of having a free form of them available to the public, even if mine don't like look the best, obviously, because they're not made by Bloomberg or the Financial Times or whatever. But they're also not behind a paywall. There's the pay buttons, sort of, but those are completely 200% optional. But you have things like oil consumption or oil demand graphs, production graphs, consumption by product breakdown. These are outdated by 2 years. I'm going to be uploading the updated versions of them soon. But ones like these, for example, have like a pie chart showing you how many thousand or million barrels / what percentage of a country's oil consumption uh, is in the form of what product, like diesel, gasoline, marine fuel, jet fuel, etc. And then, uh, yeah, other things like coal consumption or coal use graphs. You have metals and mining stuff, like pie charts, I think, breaking down their use. Yeah, what percent of the metal, of each metal we mine and refine each year is used for what. You have all kinds of different graphs there. That's all free and you can access it anytime you want to. Oh, that's outdated too. Okay, I'm gonna have to update those as well then. But yeah, that's always there. Anybody can use that. Unless you're like a mega corporation or something, then you actually better pay me. But if there's nothing else from anybody, that's probably where this one's going to end because I started way too late. So it's already 9 in the East because I'm in exile in South Carolina. The year 2020 and all that came with it forced me out of forced me out of my Alaskan home. Yeah, I'm working on it. The updated ones, I have a few done so far, but I'm not going to upload them until I have all of them done to the most recent year. Like here's Australia's most recent breakdown of numbers, for example. And instead of everything being lumped in other, I was able to get some further breakdowns for some countries. Like I was able to separate out plastics consumption versus petrochemical consumption. And if you're wondering what the difference is, since a lot of people would say petrochemical to refer to anything that's made from petroleum, by which like even fuel would be a petrochemical. I'm using typically the more like breakdown industrial term that you'll find on like energy administration websites and stuff. Plastics is basically a any non-fuel solid oil product, like you know, for the best example, the different types of plastics, like polyethylene, which makes all the different types of plastic containers and bottles and stuff. Polypropylene, which is your more hard plastic. Polyvinyl chloride, and poly something carbide, which gives you your more like super hard plastics, gives you your computer cases and stuff, and even the urethane foam that seat cushions are made out of and mattresses are full of, that counts as plastic. Petrochemicals in this particular reference refers to non-fuel liquid petroleum products, like a lot of the different components of soap, from hand soap to dish soap, laundry soap, shampoos, uh, some medications, as most medications are in pill form, obviously, but the actual individual, the active ingredients, the actual components is a mix between the different medications. Some, if it were isolated, would be technically a liquid. Some would be a solid, because most of the volume of any pill is actually just like cellulose and like dietary fiber just to hold the thing together. Because as I'm sure you've seen, if you look at anything from Tylenol to like an actual prescription medication, if you have any, the amount of things is usually in like milligrams to as low as micrograms, and that amount of volume of the particular substance would not make pills that big. It would look like a little like dab of dust that would be like the size of, I don't know, the A in the alt, the little letter A on the key on your keyboard, the alt key. But also, for example, like bar soap, like soap that gets used that you use in the shower, for example, bars of soap. The bar is a solid thing, but the soap chemicals within it, if they were not packed into the bar by other things, would actually be liquid on their own in a natural state. Let's see. I'll show you Canada real quick. There's the breakdown for Canada. Culturally, very similar to the US. So, thus, more driving culture, individual car ownership. So, one of the few countries you'll find where gasoline demand is actually higher than diesel. In almost all other countries, it's the other way around. They're one of the ones where I could actually get some separation. So plastic in particular, per day, Canada uses 143,000 barrels of oil equivalent of plastic. And then the 494,000 is not just liquid petrochemicals, it's also everything else that does and does not fall into that category. As there's an infinite number of breakdowns, because although like I said, petrochemicals usually refers to most non-fuel liquid uh, petroleum products. There are others that technically get qualified on their own outside of that because they're just considered special, like hydraulic fluid, for example, or mechanical grease, and something that's a solid petroleum product that also would fall under this block here because it is not counted amongst plastic, even though it's a solid petroleum product, is rubber. We have Germany. Deutschland's numbers. You can see flipping back over to a normal country where the diesel is higher than the gasoline, aka a country with like functional public transit systems. Who else do I have done? France. Yeah, there you go. See, diesel way bigger than gasoline. Who else is done? Japan, Nihon. They uh, they're a bit unique as their gasoline demand is higher than their diesel, but they do not do a lot of personal driving, but it then does come down to the fact that they are there are still 122 million people on those islands, although that's dropping really quickly. They're one of the ones who has a really high LPG consumption, as for a lot of places outside of the major cities like Tokyo and Osaka that are on nice flat plains, where pipelines and wires and everything can run underground really nicely. Outside of that, anything else in like the mountains can't really be connected all that well. It could, but it would be really expensive and a bit strenuous. So a lot of places do use LPG for cooking gas and for heating and etc. Kenya actually managed to get breakdown for Kenya. So they're a bit over 120,000 barrels per day. They've reached now as they're economically rising. 44 of that is diesel, 35,000 barrels per day is gasoline, 16,000 jet fuel, 5,000 barrels per day of marine fuel or any type of fuel used by ships, ocean-going vessels. Again, some ships use diesel, but if it's being used in the ship, that diesel then falls under marine fuel. Uh, Plastic, Kenya only uses about 4,000 barrels per day equivalent of plastic. For the moment, though, hopefully they can keep that low. Petrochemicals and everything else, also altogether about 4,000 equivalents and then 13,000 LPG. As Kenya is getting a lot more of their population access to like modern cooking apparatuses. However, a lot of it is still rural and thus not on a fully distributed network. And also, it would bankrupt Kenya to try to build out like some gas distribution pipeline network at this stage. So, those that do have like modern cooking stoves and everything out in the rural areas are primarily at the moment still going to be reliant on LPG. But Kenya can probably get a decent like line network out there eventually, as most of the populated area of Kenya is predominantly flat. South Africa, diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, marine fuel, kerosene, as there is actually still a lot of people in South Africa, despite the image the South African government likes to present. It actually does have a decent few million people who live outside of grid connection. And so there are actually people there who are still have to use kerosene lamps. Turkey, 511 diesel. And then uh, technically, these two, the LPG for Turkey is in huge part car fuel. Half of Turkey's personal automobiles run on LPG fired engines instead of regular gasoline. So their fuel being used for personal automobiles, which is usually predominantly gasoline, is in total actually about 255,000, but it's split between the two types. USA, 8.9 million barrels per day gasoline, 3.9 diesel, 1.8 million jet fuel. Marine fuel is usually about 400,000. Asphalt and tar for road pavements and roofing sealant, about 400,000 barrels per day. About 900,000 barrels per day of propane, 1.4 million barrels per day of liquid petrochemicals, 1.9 million barrels per day of oil equivalents consumed in the form of plastic. And then the remaining 1 million barrels per day is everything else from rubber to wax to hydraulic fluid, uh, mechanical grease, motor oil, etc., etc. And then the only other one I have at the moment is Vietnam, who's 230,000 diesel, 189 gasoline, 59,000 jet fuel. Marine fuel, not that much as of the moment, as they have not ballooned into a large traffic of incoming and outgoing like large vessels at sea, since a fair deal of their stuff that they manufacture is imported by China into China, so it just goes north overland on rails. 74 LPG, 74,000 barrels per day equivalent plastic, and then 75 everything else. Okay, that's going to be the end of this then. And if anybody showed up at like the last minute, just scroll back on the timeline, etc., etc. Okay, so I will see you guys around next time, and I'll try to have the oil demand levels data video up maybe tomorrow night.